In this episode of the drawing room, we're going to create an underwater scene. And once we have that built, then we'll use that for future episodes to continue building on to explain how to do certain things like, create rocks and stuff like that. We'll continue to add to it. But for now, let's focus on the underwater scene. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is I have to come up here under the layer portion, and I'm going to add a folder, and I'm just going to call it BG for background. Then I'm going to pull my layer up underneath that. I'm going to come over here to the selection area, subtools, and select this rectangle marquee, and I'm going to select the top third of my layer. Then I'm going to come over to gradients, come up to blue sky, and then I'm going to, and I have the shift key pushed, and that just snaps it. See, if I didn't have this is without the shift key. By holding the shift key, now it snaps to 45-degree increments. And I'm going to go right about there so that I have dark blue here and the light color on top, and that's what I want. I want it to be in that direction. Now I'm going to hit Control D to make that go away, and now I'm going to do this rectangle again, but the bottom third. Go back to gradient, back to blue sky. And I'm going to do the same thing, except now I'm going to push downward about the same distance. So I have now the light color down here. And hit Control D. Select the bucket. And come over here, and I want to make sure that I have this color. So that's the color I want right in this guy right here. Then I'm just put it in there, left click, and now I filled it in. Okay, and now we have our background color, and we're ready for the next step. In this step, we're going to add some texture. So I'm going to come into the Clip Studio Assets. I have typed water here, and that's so that I can filter out everything that has to do with water, and at the top of the materials there. And so, it provides you with a lot of different water, what you call water brushes, water materials, water textures. Like this is watercolors, but even watercolor as paint. Okay, but this is the one I want. It's the second one, and it just looks like, some waves. I'll show you here. I'm going to drop it right here, right above the base colors. Go ahead and close that so we have all the room, and there it is. It's and you can tell that it's a kind of a repeatable, because right there, and I want to make sure that when I put this or finish this off, that I don't have this other part. This is kind of makes it so it's repeatable, but I don't need it to be repeatable. Now, what I did is dragged it up so it flips. So now it's upside down. And that's because it's the bottom of the surface. Okay, and I'm going to pull it so that, there we go. See how, just like that, want that in there. Okay, and pull it down maybe about like that. And then we'll come over here and change the blend mode to overlay, and now you see it just takes on the colors that were underneath it and just gives us the values, the light and dark values. However, that's by itself is not enough, because when I unclick on it, you can see I have this harsh line, and I've got to get rid of that. So what we're going to do, I'm going to stay on this layer here that has our colors in it, and I'm going to get a blending brush. In this case, I'm using one called Paint and Apply. And I got it actually from Robert Marzullo, and you can, I'll put a link there where you can find, he's got a lot of cool stuff that you can get, and this was one of them. He's got a whole set of brushes and stuff. Okay, with this color, I didn't mean to click that many times, but with this color here selected, which is this color, I'm going to, within that layer there, I'm going to push this color up. So I'm going to create kind of a bowl, or maybe a plate, a deep plate. So we got the, it kind of curves up. Make sure you do not go this way, because it'll pull the paint down. We want to push the paint up into this area here. We're going to do the same thing down here. You can see, I'll show you what it's actually doing, is that. See, and I just pulled up, and I didn't mean to do that, but it pulls the paint up. So we'll push down on this side, and we'll make, this one is not as important because we'll usually have stuff in here. Okay, now I'm going to make this really big so that I can then just kind of, and just gently touching it so that I can smear the colors, that blend the colors more. Same here, just, okay. Now I'm going to go to the next one, the water, this texture, and I can't do anything with it yet because it is, see, I can tell just by looking at that, it is still a material and not a rasterized image that I can manipulate. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to rasterize it. And now if I click on the object tool up here, I don't get those. I can't now use those to size it. I have to size it like I would any other raster image. Okay, now I'm going to come down and get my blending brush again. And I'm going to do the same thing, not the same thing. I'm going to use it, though, to soften this up. And I'm just going to barely touch like that because I don't want, and just the edge of it, so that it will blend in. And the reason why I'm doing it this way, actually, let's put it here because it's adding color. I'm just touching it just gently. And that's because I don't want to mess with the texture. I want to keep the texture. I just want to get rid of the line. So just barely touching the tablet. Don't try to do this with a mouse because you won't be able to do it because the mouse doesn't have that soft touch that, a pen has. Okay, and then this color, I'm just going to kind of soften that down there so it blends in. And there we go. Okay, one last thing I need to do before I can say that the texture is done is I need to add in the sun glow there. So I'm going to add another layer above our water layer. Change its blending mode to add glow. And while we're at it, might as well change the name here and just say glow. And come down here, and I'm going to change the name of this to just base. This is our base color. Okay. Now back up to our glow layer, and now I'm going to change this color, and I think I'm going to just pick that color right there and maybe move it up a little bit more so this is bright. And now using my blending brush, I'm going to add the glow of the sun here in the middle. Okay. And this is where our light rays are going to come from. Okay, at this point we can say that we have the top of water completed. So we're looking up at the surface of the water there. Now, if we wanted, you can, if you want a softer look, you can take and blur this down. I'm not going to. I'm just going to leave it like that until we get the rays in, and then I'll see what I want to do with it. So that'll be the next thing we do. Okay, now what I want to do is create another folder, and I'm going to call this sun rays. I'll add a layer here, and I'll name it rays. Then I'm going to come back into the Clip Studio assets, change this from water to flash, and see, it gives us all these different flashes, the different style flashes, great for comics, you know, wham, bang, pow, explosions, etc. This is the one I want right here because it has a blurred effect to it. It's really cool. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to drag it underneath our rays layer. Then I'll just close that up and see how it's blurred but kind of dark at the same time. It's expecting to have some color behind it. I'm going to pull each side here out a bit. Let's shrink it down a little, and I'm going to drag this right up like that. Now you can start to see what I'm trying to do. Now I'm going to come over here and use the move tool. Then I'm going to hit Control T so that it allows me to change its size this way. And I'm just going to drag it straight down. Let's drag it a little further. And I'll show you why I'm going to drag it further. Bring it up, because I need this to be above the top of our canvas. Get down some more. I want to make sure that none of the edges. Okay, let's go with, bring it down a little bit, like that. Now I'm going to get rid of some of these on the sides and bring it in. Okay. So to do that, I'm going to say okay, so I can accept the transformation I did, and let's go ahead and fill it up. I can just click over here and that makes it fill up my viewport. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to control click on my flash of light layer, and see, it gives me that. But this is what it is selecting, is this part, and what I want it to do is select this part. Now this comes much further down. It's really feathered, so when we get done you're going to see lines all the way down there. So I'm going to invert this, so now I see it's just this part right here. I'm going to hit the bucket, and I need, you know, a light color. I think that's the one I'm going to go with, but it needs to have a little bit more color to it, so maybe that one. Let's do, how about, there we go. Let's do that one. Okay, so now I got the bucket, and of course it's not going to let me do anything on here. That's because I need to select my rays layer. Now you can come up here, click, let it think, and there. Wow, that is something, right? Okay, now I can turn off my flash of light. I won't be using that anymore, but I'll keep it there just in case, you know, I have to do this over again. And I'm going to hit Control D to make that go away. I'm going to turn this into, or its blending mode, into an overlay. Of course, nothing happens because the folder needs to be set to through, so that anything I do here, any blending modes, will flow through the folder and affect other folders. Okay. Now I need to duplicate this. Makes it a little brighter. But I am going to go back down to this one, the lower one, and I'm going to blur it using Gaussian blur, and go about that much, about somewhere in the 70s there. Didn't have to be exact. Hit OK. Let it do its thing. Now I have this at 600 resolution, so if I had a lower resolution, it would go much much faster. But the reason I've got it such high resolution is because it's easier to take something very large and shrink it down to, but if you take something small and try to blow it up, you're going to have all sorts of artifacts and noise in it. So I always do something at a higher resolution and then bring it down to what I need it to be. Okay, I'm going to duplicate that top one again, then come to the second one between, and I'm going to blur it as well, but not as much. We'll come up about half of what we did, maybe a little less than half. Let it blur. Okay, then I'm going to grab the move tool, and I'm just going to go to the left a couple of clicks, and then I'm going to go to the right on the other one a couple of clicks. That just kind of spreads it out there. Okay, now I need to clean it up, and I probably should have done that before I did this, but let's do it the slow way. What would have been best is, before I did all that duplication, was clean it. But you know what? I may want to keep some of it. So I'm picking the eraser tool in the soft, and let's just, and I'm going to soften down here too, because we don't need it to come all the way down. Okay, and now I'm going to take the next one. And we'll soften it up as well down here at the bottom. And would have helped if I was on the right layer when I did that, but don't tell anybody, okay? It made it look like I was knew what I was doing. Okay, here we go. Now it's doing it. Okay, I'm on the next one. Highlight that and make sure I'm on it this time, and just erase out what I don't want. There we go. Okay, now we have our sun rays. We're ready for the next step. Okay, now in this step we're going to add our caustics, which is those bright lines that dance on the bottom of your swimming pool or the bottom of a lake, you know, where the sun's shining through, and they just kind of dance. And that's what we're going to put in, except without the dancing. Okay, I'm come down to this layer, but I'm not going to open it. I'm going to create another folder because I want the folder to be between these two, because it's the sun rays that create the caustics. So I don't want it to be above the sun rays. I want it to be below the sun rays. And I'm just going to call this folder caustics. And we'll give it a layer. We're going to need that. But I also need a caustic pattern that I'm going to use. So I have one that I found on the internet, and I had to doctor it up a little bit, and that's one of the best places. Just go and find yourself a royalty-free caustic pattern, or you can go and look on Clip Paint store, and you'll find some there as well. But you may have to doctor it up a bit. And it's not too hard to do. You just want to make sure that it's all white. I'll show you with this one. So I'm going to drop it in. And there it is. And let me drop out everything there. You can see a little better there. Like that. Okay. Now I'm going to make a copy of it. So I'm going to duplicate it. And this one I'm going to keep, and I'm just going to pull it underneath. I don't need that layer anymore, so let me get rid of that layer. I just want to keep, so now I have, you know, a copy of it, And this one here is the one I'm going to manipulate. So let me turn back on everything. And I'm going to pull this guy over, let's say about there. And with that move tool selected still, I'm going to press my Alt key, and I'm going to drag my mouse with the left mouse button down, and that gives me a copy. And I can do that again. And let's do it one more time. Now I'm going to, this as it is for this size drawing is too small, but that's okay. We're going to enlarge it, but before I do that, I'm going to join all of these together. So I am going to merge selected layers, and now it's all one. And then I'm going to do it one more time with the Alt key pressed, and I'm going to click and drag my mouse so I get a copy of it. Then I'm just going to move it right into place there. Then I'm going to join those two layers together. So now I have one layer. Okay, now I'm going to size it so it's all to the edge, and that will make, of course, it should make it close to being the size I want. If not, I'll just keep going and pull it down to where I want it to be. I think, yeah, I think that'll work. Okay, so while I have that selected, the reason I'm making this now so small, I'm going to come up here, go to transform, and go to perspective. And now what it did is it changed my selection thing here so that I can do that. And I might want to drag it just a little bit more. Let's see. Okay, so you see what it's doing. It's making it feel like it's going off into the distance. See, like a perspective would. Okay, so say OK. Click OK anytime. Because I have it such a high resolution, I have to wait a lot of times for it to do all the things it's doing. Okay, there we go. Now what I'm going to do is change the blending mode of that layer to overlay. Of course, it doesn't do anything because I also need to change the folder to through, and there we go. Now I'm still not done yet. What I'm going to do is make a copy of this. Then I'm going to take the one at the bottom of this, and I'm going to blur it just like what we did with the rays, right? So Gaussian blur, bring it up in the 70s. It should be enough, and now we should see it start to. There we go. See it moving across the screen. I don't know if you can see that yet. Okay, I'm going to say OK. And with the movement, I'm just going to move it over a couple and down a couple. It did a couple should just do it. It's just enough to make it blur. Okay. Now, just for fun, I'm going to see what would happen though if I. Yes, I don't want it to be glow. If I was to try, it's good to experiment. If you're going to be an artist, you have to experiment all the time because that's where you're going to find things, find new ways to do creative things. Let's try that one. Yeah, that's it. So overlay is my best choice. There we go. Now I still have this harsh line. We already curved this so that it's going with the the cone here. So I need to soften that line back there. So I'm going to do one at a time. Start with this one and use my blend brush, and we'll just Just soften that edge. I'm barely touching the tablet with my pen. Okay. All right. Turn that one off, and now let's go to this one. This one's already blurred, so it should make it even easier. Again, just barely touching, because I want to keep as much detail as possible without that edge. And of course, you can see here, I've got some artifacts there. That's just because I moved this after I blurred it, so I'll just finish blurring it. Okay, there we go. Now if I turn both of them on, see, it just kind of feels like it's going off into the distance there. And there we go. That's our beginnings of an underwater scene. You can take this same concept now and start to do other things with it, in which we are going to expand it now into the next episode.